Good morning, you guys. Today we're going to be talking about slope-intercept form. Before we get started, if you'll go ahead and grab a sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil, you can go ahead and pause this video if you need to make sure that you're ready to follow along and take notes as we get going. And so today we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. And so slope, we all know what slope is, hopefully. If not, we're going to be refreshed right now. And intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And in this form, m is your slope, and b is your y-intercept. So if we were to be given the equation y equals 3x plus 2, we know that our slope is whatever is right next to the x. So in this case, your slope is 3, and your y-intercept, or your b value, is 2. In the same way, if I flip it, and let's say I say this, y equals 1/2 plus 7x. This case, 1/2, since it's by itself, even though it's first, is going to be my y-intercept, and the 7 is going to be my slope. Okay, so I want you to take a moment right now, looking at this problem right here, identify the slope of the following equation, take a moment to read through that, and answer the question that's popping up. All right. Awesome. Hopefully you got that right. Now we're going to move on to how you actually calculate slope. So we're going to come over here. So there's actually 4 steps to calculating slope. The first is we're going to find 2 bullseye points. The next thing we're going to do is put it in a table, draw our arrows, and find delta y over delta x. And we know that delta just means change. Okay, so we're finding the change in y over the change in x. So I've actually already given us 2 points here. So the first set of points we're going to look at is 2, 4, and 4, 8. The very first thing I want us to do is label this. So let's say this is your x, and this is your y, this is your x, and this is your y. Okay, we're now going to take these 2 points and put it in a table. So we have 2, 4, and we have 4, 8. All right, step 1 and 2 are complete, so now we're going to draw those arrows. So I'm going to draw the arrows. I like to go up, but you can do it whichever direction as long as your arrows are in the same direction. So we're going to start with delta y, which is your change in y first. These arrows tell me we're going to say 8 minus 4. So on top we're going to put 8 minus 4 over, what's my delta x? 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2. So 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right, let's do one that's a little bit more tricky that has some negatives in it, everyone's favorite or least favorite. Okay, so I have already been given my 2 perfect bullseye points. Now, if this was on a graph, I'd have to find those, but since I've already been given them, we're just going to start by labeling. So this is x, this is y, this is x, and this is y. All right, step number 2 says put it in a table. So I just put mine in a table. All right, I'm just going to start by plugging in those points. And then we have 2 and -6. All right, the next thing I always like to do is go ahead and write down my formula I'm going to follow. So delta y over delta x, and let's go ahead and draw those arrows. Okay, this is where things can get tricky, so make sure you take your time and slow down on these. This says -6 minus, right, that's the change, -3 over 2 minus -4. Well, when we have minus and negative, hopefully remember that actually is going to turn into a positive. So I can change that to a plus sign and that to a plus sign. So looking at my final thing here, we have -6 plus 3, or we can think 3 minus 6. This is going to be -3 over 2 plus 4 is 6. So I can leave it like this, or I can reduce it down. When I reduce this down, it's going to become -1/2, or you can say -0.5. Any of those are going to be correct there. All right, again, I want you to practice this. So if you get lost, go ahead and rewind and replay it. But I'm going to give you a second. I want you to solve this problem. It says find the slope given these 2 points. All right, awesome work so far, you guys. Now we're gonna put this all together given a graph. So we need to remember that we learned today that y equals mx plus b is our slope-intercept form, and m is my slope, and b is my y-intercept. So the very first thing I wanna remind you is the y-intercept is just where is your graph crossing the y-axis. So let's start by identifying my y-intercept here. So in this graph right here, I notice this is my y-axis. So my function is crossing the y-axis at -2. So I know when I write my final equation that b is going to be -2. But now I have to calculate my m, my slope. And if you remember from our instructions before, the very first thing I have to do is find 2 perfect bullseye points. Well, I actually already found one right here. So I'm going to start by writing that point down. This is the point 0, -2, and I'm even going to go ahead and label that x, y. Okay, let's see, where else is another perfect bullseye point? I know my drawing's not perfect. Actually, this is also a perfect bullseye point. So this is the point -2, 0. All right, with those 2 points, I'm going to actually bring those over here and write them down. So we have 0, -2, oops, and -2, 0. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put these in a table, x, y, and I can even label these x, y, x, y. All right, so we have 0, -2, and then we have -2, 0. Well, that looks kind of funky. So I'm going to draw my arrows. We are trying to find delta y over delta x. So I'm going to start with delta y. So this is 0 minus -2 over -2 minus 0. Well, we just talked about when we have minus and negative right next to each other, this turns into a positive. So this becomes 2 over -2 minus 0 is -2. Well, 2 divided by -2 is going to give me -1. Okay, so now that I've calculated my m is -1. Once I have my b and my m, I could plug this back into this original equation. So we have y equals, what's my m value? -1, so we're going to say -1 x, and then my b value is -2, so we're going to say -2. So this is the name or the equation for this line. All right, I want you to try one of these on your own before you start practice today. So I'm going to give you a second. This says, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. And I went ahead and marked 2 points for you already. So your first bullseye point is 3, 0, and your second is 0, -. Okay, just wanted to remind you as you start your practice today, these are going to be your 4 steps that are going to be super helpful for you, okay? So make sure you find 2 bullseye points, which means perfect points, put it in a table, draw your arrows, and find your change in y over change in x.